Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cards. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And this week's episode, we have a very special guest with us today. She's a singer, she's a songwriter, a bass player, a guitar player, a multi-instrumentalist, a writer, and soon to be a published author. I give you Saz Harper. How are you doing, Saz?
Hello. Oh, gosh. Well, that was an intro, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to think of all the things that I know you do. Now, I know you probably have many skills apart from this, but certainly in the realm of the arts, I think I hopefully covered everything.
Well, I'm pretty right side of the brain. That is for certain. But yeah, no, thank you for that.
No problem. Now, I should just say I've known Saz for a very long time. I think we met, if it wasn't at the jam session, the Freak Jam type group of companies type thing, it may have been at the Red Line in Twickenham, I think.
Either is possible, yeah. I would have put it down as some kind of animal and another animal pub.
In the ferret and hound.
Yeah, something like that, in West Drayton. Or that's a good shout, actually. Or Filthies in Twickenham, which doesn't sound, it's not as dodgy as it sounds. That was actually another pub.
Is there carpet in the bathroom? That's the real question. If there's carpet in the bathroom, I'm not going.
Oh, most probably.
That's one that I've talked very in depth about with Tim. The carpet in the bathroom is a no from me.
Yeah, the Red Line in Twickenham used to be called, for a period of time, it was called Filthy McNasties, and then it changed. Yeah, and then it changed its name to Tesco.
It did. I was about to say that. It went from Red Line to Tesco Express, and I believe it's still that today. So I don't really go drinking in there that often now, as you can probably imagine.
I think it's very literal. Was the literal name Filthy? Because that's...
Filthy McNasties. I don't know. Was it like a brewery company or something, Tim?
I think so. I think there was a few Filthy McNasties. I think whether the brewery or the owners purchased it and they just branded it like they did the rest of their pubs. But it was terribly sad because that was such a great place. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, as I was just flicking through my archives, I think you and your friend came to a Rough Justice gig that we had at the Filthy Mc Red Line or whatever it was called. And I think that's probably where I first met you.
Probably is there. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it was a long time ago, Tim.
It was a very long time ago.
But one thing is for certain, I am very glad I met you.
Well, thank you. And I'm incredibly glad I met you because we've had a lot of fun over the years. We've shared the stage many times.
We have. What an honor.
Yeah. And I think at one point, you even played bass in Rough Justice for a gig, I think. And I think I have a picture of that.
For a gig? Oh, gosh. I might have certainly done a couple of little songs as, guest spots on the night, but I don't know, a whole gig? Ooh.
It was, do you remember we had a jam night and it was at some pub in Staines that's no longer there. We had a Rough Justice midweek jam.
Ooh. Okay.
And for whatever
Saz
reason...
is really going, I'll take your word for it because I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, Dave, the bass player, was not available, and you did it, and hardly anyone came down. So effectively, you played bass in Rough Justice for a whole gig.
Oh, I see. Right. Well, I'll take that. And it was one of the best gigs I've ever done, probably. Oh, dear. That was a bit like Thursday night at Mr. Bumble's because I... was house bassist for the first time ever there. So, and there wasn't many musicians who came in the end. And so I was up on stage quite a lot. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, I saw your posting about that. I mean, I would have assumed that you'd already done that, but I'm so glad that you did.
I know, I very nearly did for many times over the years. But, certainly for the longest time, I wasn't into my music, for a while. And I suppose it was a confidence thing and, all those things. And but yeah, just getting back into music now, I thought, you know what, got to take the bull by the horns and YOLO and all that. So
this is the first No Name Music Cast exclusive, so our guest is reaching for something, Tim.
Right, it's nothing dodgy, okay? But it might be quite important because I may as well explain it now. So got this little bell, right? which is usually my bar, and I ring it when I have a drink. So if I start to salivate every time I ring it, it's the Pavlovian effect of thinking my body's thinking I'm, having about to have a Jack Daniels or something. But I thought this is going to be so meta, right? Because I've got the bingo cards.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm going to try and do my own bingo cards, right?
That's hilarious.
And now I've actually lost a bit of paper. Where is it?
This is her first. She's going to ring the bell when she gets a bingo.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to try and do, people. We'll see how we get on.
That's funny.
Absolutely fantastic. So, on the subject of music, and you said that you just recently got back into music. I understand you have a new band that you're out there playing with. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. We're called Jenn Behaving Badly, and we're called that because the lead singer is Jenny. My Bezzy, my best mate, who you know very well, Tim. You both know very well.
Mm-hmm.
And Joy might not know this, but the reason why we're called Jenn Behaving Badly, it was Jenny's idea, obviously. Do you remember, Tim? Do you know?
Yeah, after the TV show, Men Behaving Badly.
Yes, exactly. So Men Behaving Badly was a sitcom in the 90s about two male flatmates. Hence the name.
Shenanigans and stuff.
Yeah, shenanigans, the hilarity ensues. And they both, one of them pined for the next door neighbour, the other had a, long-suffering girlfriend, and it was a good laugh. And yes, it's just a pun on that, really. But we have a lot of fun in this band.
And I see that your calendar it seems to be pretty full. I've seen your gig list. What kind of places are you playing?
Nowhere near Hounslow.
Okay.
Yes.
Check.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Alton. Aldershot, Farnham. Loads of those places basically.
Fantastic. Well, I said I've seen your gig list and I've seen that it's pretty extensive. So I'm glad that you're seeing success with that. It's always exciting when you see a new band hit the scene, especially when it's full of people that you know and you always wish them well when they're doing that. So,
but the problem is, and you probably have this, being a group of musicians who are all in bands, you never get your mates to come to a gig because they're either gigging themselves or they're just too blooming knackered to go out that weekend because they're not gigging and they want to rest.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm lucky that I get to gig most weekends. And then if I'm not gigging, to be perfectly honest, the last thing I want to do is traipse out to the something Moose Lodge and go and see a band.
Yeah, but there you go.
I was just going to say, I've definitely seen the set list that Saz has put online, and it looks pretty extensive. I was impressed. I'm not going to lie. That's a lot of different. It's varied. There's a lot of different band options.
Yeah, definitely. And because of our sound, because we've got a female lead vocal and a female backing, we tend to go for more female bands and artists. And I think that gives us a bit more of a unique sound.
Yeah, and I imagine, I hate to say this, but like the other bands you're playing with are probably more male dominated. So it makes you guys stand out. I support it. I love it.
Yeah, we've got a bit of an edge, I think.
I was going to say, so as well as all your talents in the music field, you're also a writer. Now, I know you've written songs, but you are a writer that's soon to be published. So tell us about your forthcoming book that you have coming out.
Well, I've been writing it for many years, few years, probably about 6 years in total, but a bit of a hiatus for a year within that time and for various reasons. And also I do shift work and things like that. So it's just been a long process, and I've been learning how to write, creative writing as well. So the whole thing's taken quite a long time. But yeah, basically it's a novel. It's a domestic abuse psychological thriller with a supernatural edge. That's basically my little coined phrase to describe it. And it's called Ella's Ghost. And yes, I aim to self-publish by the end of the year. I've penciled in around October because I've got a lot of time off then. But I've recently had an editorial assessment on it, which is basically I've paid a professional editor to read my manuscript over and over and over again and write a report as to what's good about it and what's kind of wrong with it, really. What needs to be improved to make it a better overall story and, better characters and all this business. So I've got a bit of work to do, put it that way.
That sounds painful. Like to have someone read your story over and over and over. They constantly send you notes. That would be painful for me.
It was more a case of over a maybe 3-month period, he would compile a report. And then at the end of that period, he gave me the report, and we still liaise about it now. And I can send over the revised manuscript once I've done all that, and he can look over it again. So it is an ongoing kind of collaboration, really. I've found it really interesting. One thing I have learned is to not be too precious about everything that you write. And if you want it to be successful, if you're going to publish it and you want people to like it, you've got to take on board constructive criticism,
It's just interesting because writing's very vulnerable in and of itself. So I feel like at first that would be painful. And then like anything else, kind of like me and Tim joke about, we're numb to hearing our own voices on the podcast anymore. But when you first start something, it's like, oh God, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I can imagine me hearing this, playing it back on when it gets aired and thinking, oh my God. But yeah, in terms of writing, I've certainly become more confident in my abilities. I'm sure there's a lot more room for improvement, but I'm really enjoying the creative process and the learning process because it's a skill in itself. Learning how to write a good story, a lot of things to it. So but I'm really enjoying it.
Fantastic. And in fact, I think you've been to a number of sort of writing camps and you've been liaising with other writers. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went on a couple of writing weekend in Woking, a residential place. So I had a little room and there were tea and coffee facilities and you had catering and everything. So they made you breakfast, lunch and dinner. And it was for, Friday night and Saturday night. And then we finished the course on Sunday afternoon. But yeah, you get a course there as well. And it was just really nice being in a little community of about 10 writers who were doing all different things. And you got to do different writing tasks and things like that and share them and read them out. And it's just really nice and interesting. And you network and you learn things and it's great.
And that's good. And actually, as a writer, here's a question for you. What's your thoughts on sort of these AI, Chat GPT and things like that? How, as somebody who's sort of dedicated themselves to making creative work in the realm of writing, how do you find that?
I find it all very, very scary and very dangerous. I think already you're going to have kids using it to write essays and things like that. But also in terms of the prospect of not needing people to write creative stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be ever a possibility that it gets so good that humans aren't required for that? I don't know. I'd like to think not.
I would think so because when you write it kind of sort of comes from your heart. It is not just a collection of words that are strung together that sounds about right.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be a nuance in the way you construct a particular sentence that has such meaning that hopefully a machine won't ever be able to do. And hopefully you'll be able to tell if, novels are written by machines or AI or a human.
See, and I use it for technical skill writing because where I'm in HR, it is useful for me to do a technical kind of thing. But even then, I have to go through it so scrupulously and edit it because it doesn't sound like it's coming from me. But for me, I can put parameters around something like a policy or something like that, and it could build it for me. So I do think it is useful, but I think that it's really important in the creative sphere because I am a musician too, and that kind of thing. Like in America right now, we've got a big Hollywood strike going on. I don't know if you've seen any of that, but
I've seen a couple of posts on Instagram through writers.
I think it's very valuable, especially like with what Tim's saying, for people to be conscientious and put that kind of stuff in their contract. Because eventually it would be, I feel like what could happen is you would still have to have a person stringing through it piece by piece, but yeah, it could outgrow us.
James Cameron was right.
Our new James Cameron. But yeah, I do use it at work a little bit, but that's more of like technical writing than creative writing.
Let's hope that doesn't happen for quite some time because, writers like yourself have got creative works out there that need to be published and you have your book coming out.
Give me a few years to make my millions at least. Come on.
Exactly.
Even just 1 million. I'm only asking for one.
Mate, at this point in time, I'd settle for a couple of 100,000. All right. I'm not greedy. I'm realistic.
I'm good with thousands. Like, I'm not really. What was it? Tim's quote of saying, I thought eventually the one way I knew I would make it is if I had my own roadies to move my equipment for me.
Oh, yes. That's the measure of success, isn't it? When you're a struggling musician.
Yeah, I'd be happy for $100 a pop, but can someone else just carry my gear for me?
Yeah.
Well, Saz is here today because we are doing our feature that we do with all of our guests, which is called the soundtrack of your life. So we've asked Saz to put together about 10 songs or so, which are the soundtrack to her life. Now, it's like Desert Island Discs without the stuff that you bring with you and without the Desert Island and without the copyright, sort of.
Maybe the new Desert Island will be like whenever the robots take over.
Oh, yeah. We'll all be herded to this little island, and all we'll have is a couple of songs with us and our memories.
Well, that just got depressing. All right, let's move to the music.
So what is the first song in the soundtrack of your life?
Well, okay. So I may not necessarily do all these chronologically, but certainly the first one that comes to mind is Every Breath You Take by the Police. And the reason why I've chosen this is not particularly because it's attached to a memory or anything like that, but for me, well, it's about nostalgia. And I wanted to discuss briefly what nostalgia is, because there was a time when you probably didn't hear all these songs all the time on the radio, and then suddenly you hear it. Or certainly this song for me, I heard it and I remembered being really, really little and hearing it, or there was a sense of nostalgia. So for me, this symbolises the sense of nostalgia, if you like, that kind of almost tangible feeling you get of nostalgia, if you get what I mean. Am I making sense?
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, Every Breath You Take is when you said the name of the song, I can remember a particular thing happening in my life, where I was living, who I was with, and it just took me back just there. And I don't even have to hear the song; it was just the title. So, and I think it's something that Joy and I often speak about in this podcast is sort of how it's like time travel is possible, because you hear a song or even hear the name of a song, and it immediately transports you back to that different time.
And I think it's very interesting if you listen to the one we did with my twin sister, where she was on here and me and Brandy bantering back and forth from our childhood, because all the songs she brought up really spoke to those moments. What's funny, though, is I don't think this episode's out yet. Me and Tim, spoiler alert, but it won't be a spoiler alert because it'll be out before this episode airs. I did an episode talking about like the most played songs on the radio. It wasn't Every Breath You Take the top song, Tim, like of all time.
I think it was from like US and UK airplay. I think it was the most played song.
I quite believe that. Going back to nostalgia as a thing. So when we were growing up, we never had Facebook, we never had YouTube. You can go on YouTube and look for that old advert that you remember that's just on the cusp of your memory. And it evokes so many different, you just, I can't remember that. I remember, the grainy picture and the colours and all this. I just wonder what the effect of not having that distance between something happening and you remembering it does to the human psyche in general. Because now it's almost like you're not allowed to forget anything, are you? Everything's accessible, everything's rememberable because you've got YouTube and Spotify and the internet. Is nostalgia even possible anymore?
I think you're right, because like you say, at one time, something would be played on the radio or a TV show would be played just the once, or you'd see something in a print advertisement in a magazine and you'd see it and have it in your house, and then you'd throw it out and then it's gone. And you'd have really no mechanism for getting any of that stuff back. And now every piece of media, whether it's music, video, something that's written, whatever, it's immediately available to everyone all the time.
Yeah, everything's documented and recorded. And even your memories, on Facebook, you get your whole life is mapped out on Facebook, and you'll get a pop-up one day. Oh, do you remember this last year and 5 years and 10 years ago. Oh, yeah. That's what everybody's experiencing right now, that they're constantly reminded of everything that's happened to them every year. Whereas the likes of us, who are similar ages, we won't get that. We'll occasionally find, have snippets where you're triggered.
They've talked about it does have an effect on our ability to retain knowledge. So they talked about in the last maybe 10, 15 years, children aren't retaining knowledge the way they used to. That's because they don't have to. It's readily available to them. So you don't have to remember all of your multiplication tables, because if you want to know what 2 times 2 is, you just look it up at any given time. So they have said that there is a phenomenon behind that. And then I will say, though, when you're talking about the Facebook memories, I'm going to make you guys laugh. Sometimes I really wish those didn't exist, because when I look at some of the stuff I posted in 2008, I don't know who that person was, but that was not me, and I'm embarrassed for her.
Yes.
Those Facebook memories are dangerous, and I don't want to see some of that.
Yeah, sometimes I delete my memories, delete them.
Like, please don't show me this again next year. I don't need to see that ever again.
I don't want that nostalgia, thanks.
Well, I mean, and I appreciate it to a point, because I do get a good laugh out of some of them. Like, oh, yeah, that did happen. But sometimes I read them and I'm like, what was wrong with me?
Yeah. But yeah, so there you go.
Well, there we are. All right. Well, what's the next song that you have for us in the soundtrack of your life?
Right. Well, as you said, I do play a bit of guitar, and it's all down to my dad giving me my little first 3/4 length nylon string guitar when I was, I don't know, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything happens when you're about 8 or 9, when you're trying to remember
that's
things.
When I had my first drum set. That's when I had my first guitar.
Whether it happened to you then or 3 years before or 3 years after, it's just like, oh, well, I was about 8 or 9. I don't know. Anyway, I think I genuinely was about 8 or 9. But yeah, so I started dabbling with that a bit. And I went to a guitar kind of group lesson at school, primary school. And it was run by Mr. Dyson, one of the teachers there. And I remember I missed the first session and I went to the next session. And they'd been learning This Old House. I've got Elvis Presley here, but obviously, is it Shakin' Stevens? He did it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would know that song predominantly by Shakin' Stevens.
And I would know it by Elvis.
Well, there you go. Well, that's, yeah, because Shakin' Stevens is English, isn't he?
He is. Famously had a hit with Green Door as well.
I do know that one. That's weird, because I know what that song is. But it may be because maybe Tim's brought it up before.
Oh, yeah, but I just remember so that was the song that everyone was learning. That's the only reason why I know that song, is because of that guitar lesson. But all I know is, I don't know what the other chords are, but I've got it playing in my head where he's playing the song, and we've got all these kids trying to keep up, but they're not. And Mr. Dyson's strumming away. He goes, this old chord, this old chord, this old G7, and that's the words to me. This old G7. That's all I hear.
I think what more I learned from this story is Dyson. All I could think of is Dyson vacuums. And I was like, wait, was that named after a person?
Well, I mean, obviously the inventor of Dyson vacuum cleaners that was his surname, but I don't know if it was any relation.
Well, no, I just don't think I would have ever known that there was a person named Dyson until you brought it up. And then I started thinking, oh, yeah, I guess the vacuum cleaner's named after something.
I also think of Terminator 2, because that was the guy with all the stuff. See, we're going back to AI again. Oh, this is creepy.
It's because I had to bring up the darn vacuum cleaner. When you were singing that, though, I also think of there's this Family Guy episode where he's like playing. He's like, "You've got your C chord," and then he's like, "Brian comes in and it changes the tempo." Brian comes, and then he's like, "Look at it, G7." When it gets dark, it was funny. There's a family. That's what I was thinking too.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look at that. Good old G7 chord.
So, how many lessons did you have with Mr. Dyson?
Do you know what? I can't think of any others after that, to be honest. Mainly self-taught.
He went off to go make vacuum cleaners.
Exactly, yeah. He gave up teaching to design vacuum cleaners.
And is it, because I mean, I know you predominantly as a bass player. Did you learn to play bass just by picking up, having had a few guitar lessons, or did you have bass guitar lessons?
Well, I shall tell you about that later on, because there may be a song attached to that.
Okay, all right. Well, I won't preempt that just then.
Although we could move on straight on to that, I guess, didn't we?
Well, why not? But there we are. Unless you have a particular order that you want them in, but that'd be great.
No, none at all. Okay, so well, let's nicely segue into that, shall we? So by this time I learned how to play bar chords, and I was strumming on an actual guitar this time, but I still had my 3/4 length guitar. And then I was like 17 by this time, and I met a boy, and we started going out, and he was like a couple of years older than me, and he and his friends all played guitar, and they were into 60s music mainly, like Kinks and Faces and Jimi Hendrix and all this. And then they were the kind of thing was, let's form a band. They said we need a bassist. I said, I'll play bass.
I feel like that's how everybody becomes a bass player.
Yeah, probably. Like we need someone. Oh, you do it. So I remember getting a bit of masking tape and putting it on the last 2 strings of my 3/4 length nylon string guitar, and voila, cello, we have a bass. And one of the first bass lines I learned was "Hey Joe" by Jimi Hendrix. And I sat and we were there in my then boyfriend's living room, a couple of us and me, and I listened to the track. I just sat for a couple of minutes and I worked out the walking bass line. Do, 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 do. And yeah, I was quite chuffed with myself. And I guess looking back, that's me realizing that I could kind of play by ear, and that's pretty much how I learn stuff now. Still to this day is just listening to it and working it out on the fretboard. And I couldn't tell you what notes they were. I know, like you might start on the G or whatever, and if you say, "Oh, this is blues in A," okay, right, I know where we are. I know what string I'm plucking. On the when I look at the fretboard, I can see the relationships of the sounds of the notes, the intonations. The 1, 3, 5 as patterns on the fretboard.
That actually makes a lot of sense to me, because that's kind of how I visualize it.
Yeah, so I'm quite visual, and I know if I put my finger there next, it's going to be the right note in relation to the note I'm playing currently.
Yeah, I mean, I play a bit of guitar, and I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I'm doing, really. And I think exactly the same as you. It's just a bunch of patterns, and I know where I am on the top E and the bottom E strings, and some of the A as well. But I just know a lot of patterns that fit. And then once you know the patterns that fit, you can sometimes play notes around those patterns. And then after you've been doing it for a while, all the little patterns seem to join up. But I couldn't tell you what notes I'm playing half the time. I just know if I bend that and I'm in that key and I'm in that place, it's going to fit.
Well, I guess a lot of people play like that. And, if it gets the job done, then great. I suppose it makes you quite intuitive as well. I mean, I'm not quite there in terms of ad-libbing and stuff like that. I'd love to be able to, but I have to practice my ad-libs, and, it's not the best.
I don't think that's just on the guitar, because I started out on the piano. That's the first instrument I picked up on. And like a C chord's going to be 3 fingers. I know exactly where I'm going to go. Then I'm going to go D. Then I'm going to go E. Then I'm going to C. It's the same thing, though. It's the same process in my head. It's less about me knowing where I'm at on the keyboard and more about me knowing the pattern my hand needs to make to get to there. So I can agree with that. And that's how I picked up the ukulele so quickly. Like I just grabbed it and you know what I mean? But I do think it's funny that you said that about the bass, because I know of at least 2 other bass players that's their exact story. Oh, we need a bass player. Okay, you do it. Nobody plays bass.
They're very underrated musicians, I'll have you know.
Well, it's the glue that binds the entire band together. You get a bass player who just, I don't know, forgets to play a bit or just doesn't come in at the right time. It just seems so empty. It's just like the glue that holds the whole band together.
I think it just helps with the layering too as a whole, because one thing, like we talk about, like the wall of sound that made all the 50s and 60s so popular, that layering is how we kind of define music now, I think. And without that middle layer that the bass provides, it does sound really weird.
Yeah, although there is a song, it's a Prince song that doesn't have a bass.
When Doves Cry.
All. That's it. Yeah.
But I think that's on purpose to give it a hollow feel.
Yeah, apparently he put there was a bass track on it. He played bass on that track. And then he's like, this doesn't sound right. And he muted the bass channel and he went, yep, there you go. It doesn't need a bass.
Oh, what a genius, eh?
That's probably what made that like kind of almost hollow When Doves Cry feel though. Like, but see, and my brain wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't have been able to rationalize that. That's why he's Prince and I'm not. For that and many other reasons, more like billions of dollars. I'd have just been like, man, let's roll with it. It's whatever. All right. What's your next song?
Oh gosh, right. Okay, where are we going? We've done that one. Oh, let's go here then. Right. So backtracking a little bit. I'm 15, 16, revising for my GCSE, I don't know, whatever, it might be science or something. Let's go with science, why not? And I'm listening to, I meant to look up the blooming album. I forgot to do that, but it's Prodigy and it's Outer Space.
Is it from the album Fat of the Land?
No, it's not. It's, let me have a look. I can hear everybody screaming the album name.
Oh yeah, no, Phil Reese is screaming it at his car right now at you, like word for word. Yeah.
Hey, we better Google it before Phil loses his. There we go. Yes,
she got to ding the bell.
I got to ding the bell. Experience. There we are. Prodigy Experience, and it's the Outer Space song. You know that. I don't know. Boring. I'm not singing.
I got nothing. I have nothing. You guys are on your own with this one. I don't know what's happening.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm not familiar with this song at all.
I'm sure it's called Outer Space. Isn't it? Out of space.
Out of space. That's it. Now the interesting thing about the Prodigy is that they sort of fused rock and techno. It was very interesting how they did that, because I think when they performed live, they had a live band with a guitar player and a drummer and stuff like that. I don't know whether they had turntables on stage, but they sort of had that techno sound, but they still had real instruments with it too.
Yes, I remember seeing them at Download a few years ago, and they were blooming marvelous.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's why they were a prodigy. See, everybody? See what I did there?
Oh, absolutely.
I've been waiting to figure out how I can sink that in there.
Joy, are you familiar with the Prodigy at all?
I am not. I have no idea what this is. I guess I'm gonna have to get a Goog.
Have you never heard the song Firestarter, Twisted Firestarter?
No.
Really?
No.
What? This is a no name first, I think. Like,
it's the association again, Tim.
I know about some music and Joy doesn't. I'm flabbergasted.
Okay, I've got to look this up. Hold on.
Give it a Goog. Here we go. I've got to start bringing them out.
Firestarter. It doesn't even look familiar to me.
You need to listen to that. I think that was Fat of the Land.
Yeah, that's what it says. 97 Fat of the Land.
Yeah, listen to the album then when you get off air.
Probably one of those things that were popular in the UK, but maybe didn't transcend into America.
Yeah, well, they were a British band, weren't they?
Yeah, it's funny sometimes. I mean, you as a listener, I mean, you've probably heard us say this, but it's interesting. You get these acts that like did nothing on one side of the Atlantic, but were huge on the other.
It's funny you should say that, Tim, because one of my next songs is down that route. We can still talk about Prodigy if we've not done with this conversation, of course. I don't want to segue too quickly.
Well, I guess the question is, why did you put it on your list? Because I never really heard an answer.
Because I just remember revising to that album, revising for my GCSE science. That's probably why I got 2 Ds.
Oh, that's what you were saying at the beginning. Okay, I kind of got lost. I was like, what's she talking about? I was like, GCSE science. What's happening? Now I understand. Okay, makes sense.
Exams at 16, yeah.
I remember those. I for my GCSEs, I did not revise at all. I figured if I didn't know it, I probably was going to never know it.
And how did you get on?
I got a bunch of C's, maybe 1 D. I think I got a B for something. I can't remember. It was good enough so I didn't have to worry about it.
I didn't do any of that. I took my SATs and made like a pretty good score on that. And that's how I went to college. But at 16, that's the one you guys take to see if you're going to continue at school, right, Tim?
It's the end of compulsory education, isn't it?
That's what I thought. All I associate that with is because I'm an American, it's like the owls on Harry Potter. They take their owls. But anyway.
Well, they got owls, newts, and
something like that, yeah.
Something like that. It's quite clever, really.
It was really cute. All right, what's our next song that you were going to lead into?
Well, yeah, like I said, it wasn't in any particular order, but we will go with this. And it kind of links in with school as well. Oh, which angle am I going to go with this?
I know, I do that one.
Yeah. It's a song by the Alan Parsons Project. And they're obviously, I believe they're British, but they're more popular over in the States than they are here, which is, unusual. They're prog rock. And so, yeah, I mean, I owe a lot to both individual parent for my liking of certain prog rock. My dad got me into certain things, and my mum, I primarily lived with my mum growing up, and she used to listen to a lot of Alan Parsons. So I know a lot of Alan Parsons, and the song I'm going to choose is not necessarily my favourite Alan Parsons song, but Psychobabble. And the reason why I'm going to choose that one is because it's a silly thing. I remember a friend of mine from school, we were listening to it. And when you're young, you don't have the vocabulary to recognise certain words. So you just kind of imply your own words or meaning to something to make sense of it. So I didn't know the term psychobabble. We sang Sacco Bebo, which basically means sack Mr. Bebbington. And Mr. Bebbington was our headmaster at our primary school. However, it's not because we didn't like him. We followed it on with Sacco Bebo. No need to. He's retiring. It was just some silly little thing, but I've always kind of associated that song with that memory.
If he's listening to this episode, we were just happy you were retiring, I promise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was like, oh gosh, when was it? Early 90s? Late 80s? Gosh, I don't even know. So he may be more than retired by now. I don't know. Listen. Yes, Mr. Bebbington, thank you for your service. And
we promise we didn't want you to get fired.
No. Nobody wanted you to get fired, honestly.
Well, I would. At this juncture, I'd like to commend both your parents for having a great taste in music and introducing you to the Alan Parsons Project. Because for those who don't know, Alan Parsons, like you say, was a progressive rock musician, but he also famously was the producer of Dark Side of the Moon. That's probably what he's famous for.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think Tim said it once on one episode before. That's the only reason I know it. But yeah, and I think you're right. He was pretty popular in America.
That's an interesting and fun fact, Tim.
There we are. And the album and the song Psychobabble, I've just looked it up, is from the album Eye in the Sky. And I think Eye in the Sky is probably the most well-known song of Alan Parsons. Certainly in this country, he's most known for Eye in the Sky.
That would have been the first song I would have thought of if you put them out there. But when I hear the word psychobabble, there's an interesting thing that I think of. There was this game that I used to play online all the time, and I'm really sad. It just disappeared one day. And it basically, they gave you like a list of words, and you had to make sentences out of them, and then the person would pick the funniest one. And that was the name of the game, was Psychobabble.
I've stirred up a bit of nostalgia for you, Joy.
I forgot about that game. I used to play hours and hours.
Yeah, and another kind of memory attached to that is so this boyfriend when I was 17, 18, we went to the cinema and saw Austin Powers, or the second one, I think it was. And it was a bit where Dr. Evil was explaining his evil plan to his son, Scott. My boyfriend and I at the time could see where this was going because he knew about Alan Parsons through me, through, the music and we've listened to and everything. And, it's the moment when he goes, we call it the Alan Parsons Project. And we were the only two people in the whole cinema laughing our heads off because nobody else got the joke. We were laughing before the punchline because we knew where it was going.
I've had that experience before. I think for me, what was interesting is when you go to a movie and like there's a song in it that like you're like really excited to hear it, and then you look around and realize nobody else in the audience even knows that song, and you're like, well, never mind. Well, I thought it was cool they put it in there, but apparently I'm the only one who knows.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're on to our next song.
Right. Okay. This is a little bit random, I guess. Kind of the same age, 17-ish. This is my first ever karaoke song that I sang. And I was really, really, really nervous. I was like shaking. It's basically the first time I'd gone up on stage and done anything in front of people, never mind sing. But it was a duet with my mate, Vicky, I think her name was. It's If You Ever by Gabrielle and is it Brian from E17?
Yeah.
So, that was my first ever karaoke song. I grew up in Cambridgeshire, right? So I grew up mainly in Ely in Cambridgeshire, ELY. And then by that time we'd moved to a little village called Littleport. Shout out to all my old mates in Cambridgeshire and Ely, Littleport, Wisbech and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was the Plough in Littleport.
Now, I would assume at this point there would be an English Heritage Blue plaque outside.
Well, if there isn't, Tim, I'll be very disappointed. Also had my 18th birthday there. That was fun. Which I remember, I couldn't read the screen because I didn't have my glasses on. I can't read the words. But yeah, so that was my first karaoke song. Yeah, and I did Brian, obviously. I did the male bit. But yeah, it was all right. And then I was hooked then. Once I got over the nerves, it was just blowing fun. And I've been doing karaoke ever since. And obviously,
And then you learn nobody's taking it seriously anyway. You were the only one in that moment taking it seriously. That's what I learned anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's great to hear people sing stuff really well. But obviously you get people who can't sing for toffee, and that's fine as long as you're all having a good time. Yeah.
I one time won a singing karaoke contest. I won about a few $100s.
Nice.
Yep, Myrtle Beach. I think it was Shania Twain. I've sung a lot of karaoke, as you can imagine. I've been a karaoke feed since I was like 3 years old, but I did one time win a share, and then I'm still sad about the time I lost to a girl who sang Sixpence None the Richer, Kiss Me, and she lost, she didn't even know half the words, and somehow I still lost to her. I still have PTSD over that night.
Oh, don't. Go on, Tim.
I was going to say, you're still sour about this all these years later.
It was just a popularity contest and I lost.
Well, something similar happened to me during at my period of amateur dramatics, darling. A friend and I went to did these. We joined Campaign Amateur Theatre. That was the group. So it's CAT, and they did shows like Wizard of Oz and Bugsy Malone, and I auditioned for Blousey Brown in Bugsy Malone. And I smashed it, right? I smashed that audition. The director leaned forward, put his hand on his chin, all this. The room was quiet, silent. Only a fool. I was brilliant. Didn't get the part, did I? Who did that go to? The girlfriend of the boy who was playing Bugsy Malone.
That's the way theater is in my experience.
She couldn't sing.
That's
Very
the way
well.
it always is. I remember whenever
I'm not bitter.
What year was it? Oh, I think we did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers when I was about probably like 19. I've been in Cats. I've been in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I've been in The Wizard of Oz. I've been in tons of musicals, The Sound of Music, and everything under the sun. And I've been through the popularity contest before. And I remember I killed it that year. I didn't get the part I wanted. But I even remember I even got a copy of all three of the judges. All three of them gave me 9 out of 10. And I still somehow didn't get the part I wanted.
Wow.
And you're going to tell me the person who got it got 10 out of 10 for all three judges? Come on. There's no way. I was robbed.
There's got to be a bit of nepotism there or something. It's not right. It's not
So
right.
what
Joy.
you're basically saying, Saz, is that you and I need to do an online collaboration where you sing that song from Bugsy Malone and we finally fix this once and for all.
Oh my goodness. I will finally be able to sleep at night.
She emails the tape to the director. See what you missed out on.
See, I could have had a career because of you.
I love that.
Is there an equivalent for writing like an Oscar? Is there a similar type thing?
Well, like a prize. I mean, you got Pulitzer Prize and Booker Prize, is it?
Yeah, so Pulitzer Prize. So you're up to get you're about to win your Pulitzer Prize. You walk up to make your big speech, and then you thank everyone who helped you, and then you go on some big diatribe about the guy who said you couldn't be a in Bugsy Malone.
Yes. Oh dear.
But my favorite musical theater one, though, is when I was in the Broadway version of The Wizard of Oz, not like the one you see in the movie, but there's the Broadway version. But I've never broke character a day in my life besides when the flying monkey's feet went straight out from underneath him and he slammed his head on like when I say he looks like a caricature. So, like the banana fall in movies where their feet go straight out from underneath them. I was literally a tree, by the way. I was a tree in this musical. And he runs right by me. And in the Broadway version, the trees like sing and dance and they're in different scenes and they're like kind of in the background a lot. And he runs right by me. And I mean, this poor guy was wearing a giant monkey costume. His feet went straight out from underneath him and he hit that stage hard. And I have never laughed harder in my life. I felt so bad in the moment. But I mean, if that wasn't live theater, I don't know what is.
Wow.
He got back up and just kept running. So I'll give it to him.
I played a munchkin in The Wizard of Oz with my friend Faye. We were probably one of probably the tallest people in our year, but yet this group we got the parts for munchkins.
We had children play the munchkins.
We were munchkins.
Well, I mean, I was a singing, dancing tree who got to throw apples at someone, and at one point I had to say, "How do you like those apples?" So it is what it is.
Oh, do you know what? Going back to the writing, so because obviously that's from that film, isn't it? Good Will Hunting. How do you like them apples? Matt Damon say it through the window.
I think so. I think that does. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is in that movie. This is in the Broadway version of The Wizard of Oz. That's probably where it comes from then, because that would have been written before Good Will Hunting. But yeah, that might be a throwback. I don't know.
This is a bit tenuous, right? But I wrote to the publisher of a how to write novels book, right, that I got, and in an example that she uses in this book, she uses the term road apples. It means a device. It's a thing in a story that stops you from going forward on the road. Now, what I didn't realise was that in America, the term road apples means big horse poo, because they're shaped like apples. But I thought it was a reference to Wizard of Oz, when she eats an apple and gets all sleepy, and that's what literally stops her continuing with her task.
Wasn't
and
it the poppies that made her sleepy?
In the book, it might have been, but in the film, it might have been apples, I think, or peaches or something. I don't know.
I feel like we would have used the term fork in the road. Kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I can't remember what kind of context she was using it in, but I wrote to her about it, and I said, "Well, how do you like them apples?" It was just something that came into me.
It's so random. But I mean, I've never heard that term I've never heard the term like apples in the road. I feel like it'd be fork in the road.
Wait, she said road apples. I think that's
apples.
What horse poo is called.
I've never heard that before, Tim. Have you heard that one?
Unless it's a West Coast thing, I've never heard that.
Okay. Unless I completely got it wrong, but I Googled it and everything.
Road apples.
I gave it a Google.
Let's see. Horse. A road apple is a term for animal feces on the side of the road from a horse.
There you go.
Never heard of it, Tim. Wow, that's a real fact everybody who listens to this podcast ever wanted to know. I know how to refer to animal feces.
Yep.
This is loosely a music podcast. Very
cutting
loosely.
edge knowledge here.
All right. I guess we probably Tim, have time for 2 more songs, you'd say?
Yeah. How many more you got on your list, Saz?
Well, quite a few actually, but
well, I tell you what, do 3 more. 3 more that really the ones that really mean something to you.
Okay, so oh gosh, all right. So let's go with this. Dakota Stereophonics.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I've chosen this one is it kind of bookmarks my most recent relationship. Now, as you know, I was married for 8 years. We went out for 11 years. I met him. We kind of mixed in the same circles, similar circles. Well, we worked at the same place actually, but met through a mutual friend. Anyway, so we've been going out for several weeks, stroke couple of months, and he comes to a gig. That was just back when I was gigging with an old band called Riven, and that was one of the songs we were doing was Dakota. And he was in the audience, and my dad had come to that gig as well. My dad, my stepmom's sister, and her husband. So it was almost a bit of a family affair, really. And it might have been the first time that they'd met. I don't know. But anyway, things were going well, and it was clear it was going to go places, this relationship. I just remember I was singing this song, Make Me Feel Like the One. You know, we were looking at each other and we were singing it to each other. And it was kind of, you know, it was that moment where we were like, yeah, you know, fast forward about 11 years and we were divorced. But anyway, so there were some good times, you know, in that period. But yeah, spoiler. You know, separated, we're going through all those. That period, and I'm out with Jenny to a Tequila Chase gig, I believe, somewhere, and they play Dakota, and I start welling up, and oh, this is awesome. You know, anyway, after that, now I hear that song, and I'm not focusing on that line. I'm focusing on the end.
That's what I was going to say.
So take a look at me now.
I was like, it all does come full circle. I knew that's where that was going.
So it's turned into more a song of empowerment, and the fact that I've gone through this period of whatever you want to call it, mourning, grief. Don't get me wrong, I'm not fully over everything yet. Maybe you never do. I don't know. But I've come a long way, and life goes on, and there you go. That's the power of music, where a song can mean so much to you, and then you can turn it around. You know, you can make it mean something else.
Well, that's what Tim was saying in the last episode we recorded. Sometimes it's better. We had this discussion about how so many lyrics and stuff could be very open to interpretation. Remember, Tim? And we said that's important because you can identify it in very, very different parts of your life, and it could be easily adapted. And that's what a lot of good songs do. But what I was going to say is a very interesting quote I once heard, Saz, that I think you'll appreciate. I was on this, they're called Humans of New York. This guy goes through on Instagram and stuff, and he talks to different people and gets their stories. And there was this one lady on there, and she was talking about kind of like you're talking about, you know, there's a lot of grief and there's a lot of feelings. And do you ever truly get over it? But she looked at it and she said, yes, me and my husband divorced. And then she said, but, you know, I got this daughter out of it. And she was talking about her daughter and all these things. And she said, and this quote has stuck with me. She said, not all good things have to last.
Yeah.
And I always think about that. Just because something happened for a very short time in your life doesn't mean that it's not important and not relevant. There's good things in there. But yeah, for some reason, whoever that lady is, if she's listening to my podcast, which seems very unlikely, but if she was, I always think about that quote.
Is that a song that you would consider performing, or is it just too personal to perform it?
No, I think there's enough kind of detachment from that now. You know, like I say, it's more of a song of empowerment for me personally now, rather than, you know, the memories that might hurt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like you say, you've got to hold on to those good things as well. So, yeah, you know, it might be a song that we do as a band.
I've played that song before. I used to play it with Lee when I was in the Lee Aaron band for a few years. And I think it was actually in the charts when we was playing it, which is probably a long time ago at this point.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It sounds like a song I could hear bands play. Like it gives me like a local band gig kind of sound to it.
Yeah, definitely. It's upbeat. It's catchy.
All right. So what's your next song?
Right. Well, I've given a nod to my mum for bestowing her prog rock knowledge onto me. So I got to do the same for my dad, Alan. Oh, my mum's called Sue, by the way. I haven't actually said that. So Dad's song is Phoenix by Wishbone Ash. He loves Wishbone Ash. I've been to a couple of gigs as well with him, as well as Yes. And obviously Dad gave me my first guitar, so I owe a lot to him about for getting into music and things like that. But there was a bit of a time where we used to go up into his loft and he would play his guitar. I bought him a Jackson Flying V for his 50th birthday.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So he'd play on that and I'd play the bass and we'd try and play along to Phoenix by Wishbone Ash. Fail miserably, obviously, but it was a good crack.
Wishbone Ash are such a great band, and I'm learning a lot about you and sort of your musical influences because I didn't know this was the kind of stuff that you really loved and you were sort of brought up listening to.
I was kind of brought up on mainly Alan Parsons, to be honest, and Pet Shop Boys, But yeah, over the more recent years, I've got more into prog rock. It seems to be the stuff that I kind of gravitate towards. So like I say, I only know tips of the iceberg of most music that I know. I don't know anything as in depth as you would, for example. But
Tim takes in depth to next level, though.
Oh gosh,
I know in depth, and then Tim's like, "Let's just go off the deep end," and I'm like, "Where did that come from?"
Yeah, so I only know a song here or there, and mostly I probably won't have albums, things like that. But that's kind of symbolic, really, of our friendship and our relationship, my dad and I. And
I love that. Are you familiar with the song "Blowing Free" by Wishbone Ash?
If you played it, probably.
It's got that intro. It goes dum ba dum ba dum ba dum.
Yes, that's yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Wishbone Ash song. That's it. Yeah.
That's probably the only one I know, if I'm being honest. Because they're 70s, so that was a good throwback fest.
But I think they're a bit like Blue Oyster Cult, and I think they're still out there gigging. I think the core members are still in it, and there's some different people involved with it now. But sort of your main characters are still out there getting it done. Andy
Powell,
and he plays a flying V as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I bought the V for my dad. So
I wonder if that's what the wishbone's for, because it's shaped like a wishbone. Maybe that's what they're named. I don't know. It's a theory, everyone.
It is.
And you said you bought him a Jackson Flying V, a Randy Rhoads model.
Oh, I don't know that in depth. I just went to my local music shop, which is in Ealing, which is kind of near Hounslow.
It's close enough.
Close enough. They had a Flying V, so it's a lovely model. He didn't know I was getting it for him, and I made him drive into Ealing. I was like, "Why are we going here?" So we parked up, took him to a music shop, and and then the guy bought it out and said, "Yeah, happy birthday, Dad." Yeah, but he did the same to me when I was 18, 19 with a bass. So he took me to a music shop, said, "Oh, why don't you try playing the bass?" So I played a bit. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I would still be nervous going into a music shop now when I kind of sort of know what I'm doing, but never mind then. And he said, "Yeah, we'll buy it for you." Like, what?
I just send Tim in and tell him to buy me whatever it is he thinks I need. Tim, I need something. Could you go? He's got the in-depth knowledge.
Was that your red Tanglewood bass?
It was the red Tanglewood Rebel 4K. Yes.
Yes, because as I was looking through my archives before we had hit record today, a lot of those pictures of you playing that red bass.
Yeah, I know. I've got to give it to Dangerous Dave, actually, to set up again, because I think it's a bit dodgy. Last time I plugged it in, it was a bit crackly and everything, so I don't know what we can do about that. But
yeah, give it to Dangerous. He'll spray some contact cleaner in it, and I don't know.
Yeah, he'll probably boil it for 20 minutes or something, and it'll say it's as good as new, like he does with his E strings.
That's a tip or a trick that bass players do, is boil their strings. Electric guitarists, you can't really do it because as you press down, it sort of dents the bottom of the string. But with bass strings, they don't really dent. The windings don't really dent so much under the fret, so you can just take them off and boil them and put them back on, and they sound super fresh again.
Yeah, unless they break when on stage, when you're playing a song from the Ashes, like that happened when Dave got me up on stage, and then did the string break while I was playing, or just afterwards, after he got on stage? And then he blamed me for the breakage of the string, the E string on his bass.
How do you break a low E string on a bass?
Do you know what? I managed to do it on the Tanglewood because I didn't change them from the shop for about 10 years. And it just kind of got, all of a sudden got really, really slack and just went, and gave up. I'm like, wow, I guess I should change them now.
Yeah, maybe 10 years is the point where you need to change your bass strings. I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good theory, Tim. I would roll with that. Also, if the guy's name is Dangerous Dave, I mean, you're kind of taking whatever it is he's giving you and rolling with it.
Well, yeah, there is that element too.
You've never met Dangerous Dave, Joy. He's hard to describe, and I mean some of the tales about Dangerous Dave are not suitable for this public discussion, and maybe I'll fill you in another time.
Well, if his name is Dangerous, I'm just going to take it for what it is. The UK has more of an obsession with nicknames than the US does. I swear, Tim. You guys all have your nicknames. That's not an American thing.
I mean, I don't want to take credit for it, but it stemmed from Rough Justice, where everyone had band names. And then it was like a Hog thing where he'd give people prefixes and suffixes. And it just sort of stuck. And I said, I don't really want to take credit for it, but I don't know. I was in that world when a lot of that was happening.
I did not know Tim was now. I didn't know you invented all nicknames, Tim. This is a first.
Well,
Invented nicknames. And the question mark.
Certainly in the West London music scene, maybe I was responsible for some.
There's some people out there in Hounslow who's got the name. All right. Well, I guess we got what? One more song? Two more songs? How many did we say? I lost count.
You said two, but it depends how much time we've got, really.
Do two, Saz, you do two more. Do two more.
Two more, right. Okay, I'll do that one. And what other one am I doing? Oh, which one? Right. Oh, gosh. Right, let's go with this one. So this is a little bit off-piste in terms of the type of music we're talking about. This is actually a soundtrack piece of music from the Apollo 13 film. And it's the launch sequence theme.
It's very specific.
It is very specific. And I'll tell you why, because A, it's a brilliant scene, and B, it's a brilliant film. It's one of my favourite films. And also the composer is rather brilliant, or was rather brilliant. Do you know who the composer is?
I know what the song is because I watched the movie, but I wouldn't know who the composer was. Tim, have you seen this film?
No, I have not seen this film.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me. Oh dear. So it's James Horner.
Oh, the guy who did the music for Titanic.
Yep, Titanic, Braveheart, Alien. And, you know, he died in, what year was it?
It wasn't that long ago.
2015, I think it says, yeah.
I remember being on, obviously you've got Tom Hanks. What's that guy's name? Paxton? His last name's like Paxton, the other guy.
Bill Paxton. Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. Those are probably the three people I think of. And I know the exact song you're talking about when they take off. So that, I mean, it is very iconic. And that's somebody who knows how to write pieces that are great in movies. So it makes sense.
Yes. Well, it was quite sad, actually. He was flying his own little aircraft. Don't know the full story, but yeah.
I kind of remember it being on TV when he passed, but I don't remember all the details.
Pretty gutted, actually. But I found a bit of this. This is really nice. This is the bit I was looking for earlier. What he says about writing music score, which I think is pretty cool. My job is to make sure at every turn of the film, it's something the audience can feel with their heart. That was in 2009 Los Angeles Times. When we lose a character, when somebody wins, when somebody loses, when someone disappears, at all times I'm keeping track constantly of what the heart is supposed to be feeling. That is my primary role. I just thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool. And outside of sort of just the film and that particular quote, is there anything in there else that makes it really special for you? Is there a certain memory or something that's associated with that piece of music?
No.
you just like it.
I just love the film, but as you know, music score as a thing, I just think it's incredible, isn't it? Really, you can't have a good film without a good music score. I've watched this film so many times. I think it's I don't know why I like it so much. Really, I just like the story and I like the way it's structured, and it's got to be something about the director as well. Oh gosh, what's his name? Richie Cunningham. It's not Richie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ralph Mouth's friend. Yeah, I know you mean.
Richie Cunningham?
Yeah, that is his real name, Richie Cunningham.
Is it though? It's not.
Yeah, it was in Happy Days.
Ron Howard. That's
I
his
have
name.
no idea what's happening right now.
I prefer Richie Cunningham. That I can't see him and not think of him as Richie Cunningham.
And his brother was in the film as well. His brother's in a lot of his films. He's the guy in Houston in the
Mission Control.
Mission Control, yeah, but he's got really thick glasses and quite a bald head.
Well, if you're anything like me, Saz, the movies that I do like tend to have really good soundtracks. And it's an interesting thing to be able to convey that message the way you want it to. So every movie that I think back on, and since you've been talking, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've noticed a lot of our people we've had on the show, in between me and Tim and just discussions, a lot of us grew up on music, and that's what made us what we are today. Mm-hmm. And those iconic soundtracks of those like 80s films and things like that, those kind of defined a generation.
Well, I mean, as I just said, I've never seen Apollo 13, but I've seen Moonraker 5,000 times. That has a really good orchestral score. And there's a track on there called Flight into Space. And it's where the Drax Moonraker shuttles are going out into space. And you see the space station for the first time. And yes, it's 70s, and you can tell they're like Action Man and plastic toys and stuff. That's beside the point. But you get this big reveal, and this score is playing, and it's the track Flight into Space. And I mean,
quite ethereal. And
yeah. And I always said that, at some point in the future, probably not, when I go in a SpaceX rocket and go up to space, that is what I'm going to listen to. As I see the curvature of the Earth out the window, the capsule, flight into space is exactly what I'm going to listen to.
Well, there's a scene in Apollo 13 when it's kind of, they've done the launch and they're doing the staff, and they've got a live transmission on TV back down to Earth, and they're having, jokes and games and stuff. And they play Spirit in the Sky. And then it switches to one of the people at Mission Control, and he goes, when I go up on Apollo 14, I'm going to take my entire collection of Johnny Cash along.
Every time Spirit in the Sky plays in a movie, you know something's about to go down, though. It never plays in a movie with something good. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if CCR Bad Mood Rising starts playing or something, things are about to the generic station's about to change.
Yes, yeah. Right, well.
I think you have one last song for us. So what do you have?
Right, so this song is symbolic of most of my musical, do you want to call it career? It's not really a career, is it? But journey.
Well, I would say career and journey, because, I mean, look where you started from and look where you are now. I mean...
Right, so we're going with Amphetamine Annie by Canned Heat.
I don't know why, but that's not what I thought you were going to end it with.
No, and it is a little bit tenuous, to be honest, because the song itself hasn't really got anything to do with the thing that set me on the path. But it's a bit tenuous, right? I'm going to get there. So this is about 2005, and I'm going to explain an injury.
Yay!
Really, it was more a medical condition that came on, really, but same thing, really, isn't it? So about 2005, for the past 3 years, I'd had this symptom of like a kind of dark grey area in my eye, in my vision, in my right side. I'd gone to the opticians, they couldn't find anything, Anyway, it got to the point where I was like rubbing my eye because it was encroaching on my vision. I couldn't see anything. It turned into like a curtain of dark grey just below my point of vision downwards. I couldn't see anything. So I went to the opticians earlier than scheduled. And he said, well, I can't see anything, but I'll make a referral to the West Mid Hospital, which is in Isleworth in Hounslow. And they'll have a look. Anyway, so I don't know how long passed, a couple of weeks or something, went to appointment, and they said to me, can you get to Moorfields Eye Hospital tonight, if not tomorrow morning, because you've basically got detached retina and they need to look at it.
Oh, wow.
So I got on the bus, I can't remember the bus name, number, to Hounslow Central or wherever, Hounslow East, and got on the tube to Moorfields, Old Street, I think it was, the stop. Got there, they checked me out. I remember the screen after they looked at my eye and everything. There was this massive, the circle shape of the eye and this massive blue area that took up 3/4 of the circle. And they said, right, yeah, your retina's come so attached. If it gets to this little bit here, you'll lose your eyesight. And it was about like a millimetre away from the macula, which is the point of no return on the eye. I'm like, whoa, okay, so we're going to operate on you tomorrow morning. Great, thanks. And so I had a couple of operations on my eye and a little bit of a kind of carpe diem kind of, moment. It wasn't life-threatening or anything like that, but it was like the first kind of major medical scare that I'd ever had. And I just started wanting to do stuff that I've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so I went on evening courses and I did level 1 British Sign Language because I quite fancied doing a bit of that. So I did, I can do the alphabet and all that a little bit. And then I also put myself down for a singing course, evening class thing. And the guy moved me from, I don't know, was it beginners or intermediate? He put me onto the higher level, and that was great. At the end of the term, we clubbed together with the guitar group that had been learning stuff simultaneously, and we did a little performance in the Green Man, I think it was, down the road from the Green School where we did our classes, and did a bit of performance then. And then from that, we formed this kind of little band. I say little, there was about 9 of us, but
That's a big band.
Yeah, but we did a few open mics and things like that. But basically, that got me onto the whole, gigging scene, really. So, and at the time, we were doing a lot of, here's a tenuous link, we were doing a lot of kind of blues and stuff like that, bit of soul. And somewhere along the line, I got the best of Canned Heat. And that's I just associate that kind of period of my life with that album, and I just really like the song Amphetamine Annie.
Well, it's like you say, out of, I won't say great tragedy, but out of sort of almost a life-changing event, all this good stuff came out of it.
Exactly, yeah, because it just spurred me on to do things I'd wanted to do for a while but never got round to it or whatever, and never looked back, so to speak, in both eyes, that I still can see out of, which is great.
And I think that was probably just before I met you, I think.
It probably was. I mean, you probably saw me with certain things on my lenses and stuff, corrective stuff. I had about 4 operations in total over a couple of years. Yeah, a little bit traumatic, really. But
I'll have to look back through my archive, and if I see anything where your glasses just look a little bit off, I know that's what it was all about.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad to say I've still got my vision. It's, if I look through my right eye, a straight line looks a bit wobbly, but that's like the damage that has been caused to my retina. But I can still see, so that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you was lucky that you was able to get there just in the nick of time, because, like you say, a little bit later, and you'd have lost the vision in that eye. Yeah,
it's quite scary, really. But yeah, always go to the opticians, even if they don't pick up on things. But I remember leaving a string of messages on my mum's answer phone because she was at work all day. So the first one was, "Hi, Mum, I'm just going into West Mid for my appointment. I'll let you know what it's like." The next one was, Hi, Mum. I've been sent to Moorfields Eye Hospital, so I'll give you a call when I'm there. And then later on, after all the the exam and everything, it was like, hi, Mum. So God only knows when she was picking up these messages, because they were getting more and more
progression. Yeah,
frantic. I was like, oh my God.
Well, I have a similar story, and I may have covered it on the podcast. I can't remember. I also went to the opticians. I think it was Dollars and Aitchison in Hounslow High Street. One for your bell there.
There we go.
Yeah. And they thought my back of my eye, my optic nerve, looked squished and weird. And they referred me to the specialist because they thought I had a brain tumor. And apparently one of the very early signs of a brain tumor is your brain starts to swell and it compresses your optic nerve. So I had MRI scans and all that stuff. And in fact, it was that MRI scan which you made me a T-shirt, because I still have your T-shirt, which has my brain on it.
Yeah, I spelled your name wrong, didn't I? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, no one had ever made me a T-shirt before with my brain on it, so it's fine. It's all good.
It's pretty unique.
But that again, that came off the back of an optician's appointment. Luckily for me, I just found out that I have a slightly misformed optic nerve.
Oh, okay. But it's not causing you any issues or anything?
No. And in fact, I've got really good eyesight in this eye, and then that one's not, well, actually, that one's the one that's not so good, and that's the one that is good. And it's the one where it's not so good, where the optic nerve is a little bit weird.
I found out I had a cyst in my sinus cavity, basically doing the same thing. Remember, Tim, what I showed you the picture? Looks like a little grape, so it all comes full circle.
Wow.
That's right here on this eye. I have a cyst that it never goes away. It looks like a grape, and they thought it was a tumor, and I had to go get a bunch of scans done. So apparently we all have something in common, everybody.
Absolutely.
And we all wear glasses.
Yeah. All the best people wear glasses, Joy.
That's true.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up the episode now. You messaged me earlier and you said you had something special for us to close the episode out.
I do. Basically, I've got a couple of limericks, music-related limericks, because I dug this out. I thought, oh, that'd be pretty cool to share. So first one is, do we all know what a limerick is, by the way?
Yep.
We're all good with that? Cool. And I haven't written this down, or I wrote it down and I can't find it, but so this is from memory. But I wrote it in about 2009, and it's an ode to the Reading Festival that we have here, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers was playing that weekend. So for some reason, I just wrote this limerick, and it goes: There was a festival called Reading, to where everybody was heading. We got off our face while we watched Flea play bass, and we wished for more comfortable bedding.
That's every music festival ever.
Yeah. So there was that one. And do you know what? I thought, well, I can't go on here without trying to write a limerick for you guys. So, it's not my best work, but
well, no one's ever wrote us a limerick before, so you don't have a lot to compete with.
So, well, there we go. So this is an ode to the No Name Music Cast.
Okay.
There once was a music podcast whose popularity and strength grew fast. Hosts Joy and Tim are most knowledgeable, not dim. And we all hope that No Name can last.
Yay! I love that.
My name got said first for once. It's a Joy and Tim instead of Tim and Joy.
Hey, only because it rhymed. Tim rhymes with dim. So don't make any inferences to that, Tim. But
it's all good. Thank you for writing us a limerick. No one's ever done that for us before.
You're very welcome. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we thank you for coming on our podcast, and we wish you all the success in the future for your novel that's coming out. And can you just remind the folks again what it's called? It's called Ella's Ghost. And when are we expecting that one to come out again? From sometime round about October 23, hopefully. Okay, and definitely when that comes out, let's do another episode, maybe focusing completely on your book. That will be absolutely incredible. We will definitely do that. All right. So thank you so much. No problem. And we will say goodbye for this week. See you later. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.